Hey, welcome back to the Grow Podcast, everybody. As always, I'm your host, Nolan Fast, and today we have Bernard Jeske with us, and he is a program specialist with the Progressive Agriculture Foundation, and they do like safety training, safety days for kids, and I guess recently you said you had a success story come out from one of the kids that attended your one of your safety days. Why don't you tell us what happened?
Great. I'd love to, because we love success stories to show that what we're doing is making a difference. Yeah. And so the thing is, it was a situation where at this particular safety day, the kids were getting taught or shown how to use a fire extinguisher. And again, the safety days are age appropriate, so these would be of children old enough to babysit, that type of thing. But they were actually taught how to use a fire extinguisher and actually got to put out little tiny fire, usually in a skillet, that type of thing. And they're taught the pass, to pull the pin and squeeze and sweep, that all type. So the thing is, he was learned to do this, and several months after the safety day, this youth was actually in his front yard and looked over at the neighbor's house, and a fire had broke out by the front door of the neighbor's house, and the neighbor was a senior citizen, and not in good health and physical strength. And this youth actually ran into his dad's garage there, grabbed the fire extinguisher that Dad knew he had, ran over, knocked the fire down with the fire extinguisher right outside the front door. By that time, a couple neighbors had come over, and they got in the house and rescued the senior citizen, and the youth was credited for saving his life.
Well, that's awesome to hear. I mean, we at the co-op, they teach all of us how to use a fire extinguisher as well. Yep. I mean, I guess I knew how to use one before that, but
yep. There's a lot of adults. There are a lot. We do some adult, at our safety days. If there are adults there, we also train them, because there are a lot of adults that have looked at a fire extinguisher. They see it hanging on the wall.
Know it's there,
but they have no idea how to use it. A lot of times they're already trying to squeeze the handle before they pull the pin. And if you put a lot of pressure on that, you can't pull the pin out, because there's already too much pressure. They're already starting to squeeze. So it is a situation that it's wonderful for adults to learn. And the neat thing now is you can use a regular fire extinguisher, obviously, in the training, but they now have electronic fire extinguishers that instead of shooting something out of the end of the hose, it's actually like a laser pointer.
Oh, so it knows where you're pointing it at.
Yes, so it's like a TV screen. The TV screen looks like it's on fire, electronically. And then as you sweep with your fire extinguisher, that laser pointer goes across the bottom of the screen and hits sensors on there, which puts the fire out in the television screen. So you can actually teach someone how to use a fire extinguisher right in a classroom.
Without having to get a big old setup.
Yep, without having to worry about an open flame or smoke or...
Yeah, because we use it looks like a fire extinguisher, but like you pressurize it with air and then put some water in it.
Yep.
And that way we can keep reusing it.
Reusing it over and over. And that's called a training extinguisher, which exactly what it is. And I was also a volunteer firefighter for a little over 18 years in Nebraska City area. But that's exactly what that is. It's a training extinguisher, and you can just use it over and over. Just pop the top off, fill it up with water, 2/3 way, something like that, and hit it with the
Doug Salmon handled that. I trusted that he knew what he was doing.
There you go. All you need is access to water and an air compressor. Yeah. And you can go all day long with it.
So that kind of leads me to my next thing. Yeah, I guess I didn't realize you were a firefighter too. But so you're currently a program specialist for Progressive Ag. What was leading up to that? So you were a firefighter, and then how'd that go?
Well, I was a volunteer in Nebraska City. In my early years, I was a high school teacher for 10 years in Nebraska City. And at that time, I was a volunteer in the Nebraska City Volunteer Fire Department. And then when I left teaching school, I actually became the farm safety director for the state of Nebraska. at that particular time. So I was Nebraska's farm safety director for 10 years. During that 10-year program, we started at that time it was called Progressive Farmer Magazine, which is based out of Birmingham, Alabama, wanted to start a program for Farm Safety Days, Progressive Ag Safety Days. And so we were already doing that up here in Nebraska. So I was lucky enough to be invited down to Birmingham, Alabama, introduced that to the magazine. And long story short, the magazine decided to start a foundation. And then I went from Nebraska's farm safety director, and now I'm the program specialist for the Progressive Agriculture Safety Day program. And we now host not this year. This year's been a crazy year. Yeah. We just kind of X out 2020, But we've been at this now 26 years.
Oh, wow.
And we now host over 400 Progressive Agriculture Safety Days all across North America, across the United States, Canada. And we've also expanded the program into South America, down into Argentina, Uruguay, and Brazil.
So have you been going down there? Or have you...
I was lucky enough. I went down to Argentina 1 year to help provide the training. We do a site visit and a training every third year.
Okay.
Down there. So the last trip down there, we were due to go back this last March, but COVID kind of put
the kibosh on that.
Yeah, put a kibosh on that. So we're hoping to get down there again this coming year. But yeah, that's and that's where this success story came from. And the thing is, we do a lot of these Progressive Agriculture Safety Days in your farm co-op area because you guys cover a lot.
We cover a pretty big area.
Yeah, a pretty big area. And when you look at the area that you cover and you look at our map on our website of the Progressive Agriculture Safety Days, you can see we have a lot of our Progressive Ag Safety Days in under your umbrella. So
I think we should probably get in better touch, huh?
Yes. Our people need to visit with your people.
Yeah. So I've been looking into a little bit after I contacted you and I was looking into like farm safety. And maybe you'll know more about this kind of data set than I read about, but it said that farming is obviously one of the most dangerous occupations in America.
Correct.
So 22 of every 100,000 farmers die in a work-related accident is what I found. And there were some more figures that were kind of unsettling. But, I mean, do you have, what are your thoughts on why it's so dangerous? Like, why...
Well, the thing is, in our world of the Progressive Ag Safety Days, we really target the youth. And the numbers that you're sharing there would be probably adult farmers. And we don't really get into that as much as we do how many youth are injured and killed out there.
And so do you have figures for that?
Yes, and it is scary because every third day,
oh wow,
a child dies of an ag-related incident out there on the farm. And the highest percentage of those being killed on the farm are not working on the farm.
They're just families that live in there.
They're families, or they're playing, or they're visiting somebody else's, or little Bobby or Susie's having a birthday party, and these people, or the kids that come visit the birthday party, come out here on the farm and go, wow, look at this huge playground, and they don't have a clue of the...
what to avoid.
Right. So that's kind of our mission with the Progressive Ag Safety Day, not only to educate the youth that live on the farm, but that whole youth population. So that's why a lot of our safety days are school based. And, so let's say someone in your community hosts a safety day every year. It's not uncommon that they reach, say, the 3rd or the 4th grade. And then every year they have that safety day, so they reach all the 3rd graders. So they actually reach all the kids as they come through the elementary to be able to learn farm safety. So we like to educate the whole population, not only the rural kids, but the youth out there, because you gotta look. Farming is an extremely dangerous occupation, and that's right where these kids live, work, and play.
Well, I mean, I grew up on a hog farm.
There you go.
And that stuff I thought it was second nature, but it's probably because my dad yelled at me enough that I knew not to go do certain things. Okay. But I mean, I remember bringing friends over, and that wasn't it wasn't common knowledge as a kid, like, oh, we shouldn't probably go over there or climb that thing. So I get that makes perfect sense.
Yep. And in your world, you probably had, did you have like a hog confinement building?
Yeah, there was a building.
Yeah. So the thing is, that was somewhat easier to keep them out of a building. But if you had tractors sitting around with the discs or field cultivators or something that with sharp points and objects, and if they're running around playing hide and seek, that type of thing, that's where we see a lot of those types of injuries. So we really don't see as many in confinement buildings as far as kids playing. Now, as far as the youth helping mom and dad or working, doing some work in there, well, then they would be in those buildings helping, because I shared the statistic, every third day a child dies of an ag-related incident, but every day we have 33 children being injured.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, 33 injuries every day, and that's a national statistic. So every day we have 33 being injured, but every third day one is killed in a farm incident.
So since this foundation's kind of been a thing, has there, do you know, what progress have you made? Do you know if you've made, obviously you have success stories.
We have success stories, but it's just impossible to measure how many injuries that we've avoided or how many fatalities haven't happened because the kids attended safety day. It's a statistic that's impossible to measure, but we can measure it by success stories. We can measure it in our evaluation programs where we evaluate knowledge gained. So we do like a pre-test and a post-test. How much did these kids know before the safety day? And then we can do an evaluation as a post-test. How much did they learn?
Took out of it.
And then you can do that again a year later. How much of it did they remember a year later? And it's amazing, because just like this young boy that saved his neighbor with the fire extinguisher, that happened, I don't know, several months, maybe a year later. And
after the training?
After the training, and he still recalled how to use that fire extinguisher. We got another success story here where one of our youth learned about electrical safety.
Yep.
And, so we have a lot of our safety days that are due electricals, and that's good for, I don't care if it's farm kids, town kids, where the kids live.
I mean, electricity is everywhere.
That's right. We're all using electricity all the time. And so he learned that if the power line or a pole breaks or a power line comes down on your car, on your tractor, and your vehicle is not on fire, the best place to be is in that vehicle, because if you open the door and you step out and you step to the ground, you become the pathway to ground, and that's when people get electrocuted. If the vehicle is on fire, then you need to open the door and jump as far as you can away from that vehicle before you touch ground, and then hopefully that spark doesn't arc across and reach you. But yeah, this young lad, this was several years after he had been in safety day, and was actually pulling out of a field with a field cultivator. And the wing of the field cultivator caught a power pole, and snapped the power pole, or whipped it back and forth enough that it snapped the top off the pole. Power lines came down right on the hood of the tractor. Sparks were jumping on the hood of the tractor, but there was no fire. And the youth called his mom at home, and the mom got all excited, said, "Get out of that tractor, get out of the tractor." He goes, "No, I learned at safety day.
Bernard told me not to."
Yeah, this was the safest place to be." And so mom called the power company. The power company came out. They shut the power lines off. And when the power company got there, mom had driven their pickup over there. So the pickup is facing the tractor, and here's mom looking at her son in the tractor.
Sitting in the tractor with sparks
and the
flying.
tractor's sitting there, and the sparks are hobbling. They shut the power off and got the power lines off the tractor, and then got him off the tractor. And the power company again empowered him, saying he was he saved his own life, and he was more educated on what to do
Than his mom.
than mom was. So that's the thing. That's the mushroom of learning from the Progressive Ag Safety Days that's not measurable.
See, as a kid, I was always told not even to touch the door. I guess I never, like, the thought process of grounding out on the ground. It was always just don't touch that door handle.
Yep. Well, you don't want to be tempted to go out.
Which I guess is, it's not wrong. But
Right. You're just like a bird sitting on a wire when you're sitting in the tractor, because you're not touching the ground. You know, you're on those rubber tires and that type of thing. Even though some of those tires are now radial tires, it's got steel in the rubber. So there are times that electricity may blow right from the wheel through the tire to the ground. Just depends on how much voltage there is there. And then that would be a situation where there could be the beginning of a fire. So then if there's a fire, then you go to plan B. And that's to jump as far as you can away from that piece of equipment before you touch the ground.
So that was like one of the notes that I had to kind of ask you about is like you deal with the kids, teaching the kids the right thing to do, but like the adage, practice what you preach for adults. I know I've been told not to do things by my dad, and he definitely did the exact thing he told me not to do. I mean, how often do you come across that?
All the time, because the kids see what mom and dad are doing out there. They're seeing what grandma and grandpa are doing out there, and those kids want to grow up to be just like mom and dad, or I want to be just like grandma and grandpa. And if they see one of their elders doing something at a high risk and get away with it,
then they think it's fine.
They're going to think it's fine. I could do that too. You know, an example is step over a power takeoff shaft. You know, the adult, steps over that power takeoff shaft, nothing happened. Well,
and he's done it 100 times before.
Yeah, that means I can do that. Well, that means maybe on this piece of equipment it was really shielded very well. The next piece of equipment, it may be an old piece of equipment. Maybe the shield has been taken off. And now the only thing there is a live power takeoff. And if it snags you, normally power takeoff incidents are fatalities. Now you may talk to some of the older farmers of the grandpa generations. Again, I resembling that generation, that used to work with small equipment, the old Johnny Pop tractors and the old little internationals, the C's and the H's and that type of thing. And you might hear some of those old timers that talked about, my clothes got caught on a power takeoff shaft once, and I just braced myself, and it actually killed the engine.
Oh,
well, that was possible back on those little small tractors and that type of thing. On the tractors we have today, that tractor's not even going to grunt. That tractor's not even going to think there's a load on there. It will grab you and it'll wrap you around that power takeoff shaft. You're going to end up about the size of a beach ball, and you're going to be dead.
It's actually, so this episode's going to air on Friday, but also Friday we're going to be in, I believe it's Centennial, doing a safety day thing.
Perfect.
And they do, I know last year we did this thing with a drill where we just stuck a little thing out the drill, had a little barb on it so that it would catch, and then an old t-shirt, and then showed the kids how quickly that shirt, even at low speed, got wrapped up into that drill. and it's crazy to see how fast, for one, it wraps up in there. But the kids' eyes just when they see like, oh, that looks worse than I expected.
Yeah, and see if you do have a little wire or barb on there, that's going to be exemplifying like some kind of a pin on a power takeoff shaft, like a bolt that they would put in there to lock a bolt, or a set screw type of thing. So that's what you're kind of exemplifying, but you really don't need that barb on there. If you take a brand new drill bit, one that hasn't been used, brand new drill bit, and those corners on the flutes are sharp enough, all you got to do is just swing the T-shirt just like it is in a breeze. If you're walking by a tractor, you're walking by that power takeoff shaft, and the wind's blowing and your shirt blows, maybe you have a coat on that's unzipped, and the coat flops over there, and all you got to do is swing that towards the end of that drill bit, and when it hits the end of that drill bit, it's going to wrap. It's going to wrap. So just use, because then if the kids see you got a wire barb on there,
oh, they're going to assume
it's not realistic to them. Well, my dad doesn't have a wire on any of his bits or any of his PTOs. It doesn't look realistic. They're going to see a trick. You're tricking me.
So it's probably fine. But it's really not.
That's right. So the thing is, if they see it's a nice smooth drill bit, and just use like a larger bit, like a 3/8 drill bit, but use a brand new one, and it will catch that T-shirt every time. So
I mean, I even just holding it, I remember like the force of just a crappy Walmart drill trying to rip the shirt out of my hand was excessive. I mean,
yes, it will. You're not going to pull it off there.
No.
Yeah.
And I know I had some of the kids. I wrapped it up part way and then stopped the drill. Mm-hmm. Said, all right, pull it off the drill, and there was no way.
Yeah.
Even trying to tear the shirt wouldn't tear.
Yeah.
It was good. It was a good lesson.
Yep.
And so we've talked a little bit about kind of old versus new. What are some of the differences? Like, I mean, obviously, like the older stuff may have been a little more dangerous because of lack of safety features. I guess, can you talk on maybe some things that are safer now than they used to be, and maybe some things that are still dangerous in terms of?
Okay, as far as the tractors and machinery, you're always going to have moving parts. The newer equipment's got better shielding.
To cover it up. If the farmer leaves the shields on. That's the main thing. Leave the shields on. Even though, sometimes it's kind of hard to oil and grease your machine with the shields on. And the newer equipment, they've done a much better job of making that easier. But with the older equipment, sometimes you actually had to take the shield off to be able to get in there and grease and oil everything that you needed to. And, a farmer was just saying, well, I'm just going to leave this shield off because I'm going to have to grease it again in a few hours. Why put it on and off? So it gets left off, and then it gets put into the corner of the machine shed. And slowly gets pushed farther and farther away.
That's right. And it's never going to go back on type of thing. So, but newer machinery is built safer. Give you an example, the old tractors, you're going back a few years or quite a few years here, and the old narrow front end. Yeah. The old narrow front end tractors rolled over so much easier. So now, and then they went to the wide front end. Okay, so that made the tractor more sturdy and more stable. Yeah. So it wasn't as easily roll over as the old narrow front end tractors. So that was a safety feature. And then they started putting cabs on the tractors with rollover protective structures. Well, the thing is, those cabs or rollover protective structures, those are designed and built to support the entire weight of that tractor when it rolls over. So there is what they call a safety zone on that tractor seat. So if you're sitting on that tractor seat and that tractor rolls over, that rollover protective structure may bend a little this way or a little that way or front or back, but it should never collapse into the driver's safety zone.
Yeah.
Okay. So
What about that?
So farmers started seeing these cabs. Well, then they started. Well, I'm going to build my own. I'm going to build my own cab to put on my tractor. So they would weld up a frame, make their own cab, set it on a tractor, and think it's a rollover protective structure. But if it's not built heavy duty enough or to the specs, people were getting false security. Then the tractor would roll over, and they were crushed and killed. And they said, well, I had a metal frame on it. Well, it wasn't to specs of what a rollover protective structure should have been.
So I feel like I've got the wrong name here. I want to call it a buddy seat.
Okay.
But I feel like it's not a...
It's not a buddy seat. If you look at your owner's manual, it's actually called an instructor seat.
Okay.
Because the thing is, for liability reasons, there's still only supposed to be one person in that tractor. They don't want that tractor to be that tractor driver. They don't want that tractor driver to be a babysitter or that type of thing where you're going to fill the cab with kids or that type of thing. One, it's a distraction. Two, even though they're in the cab, they can still open the door and fall out of the cab. We've still had times where the tractor has gone through a little bit of a ditch and put the tractor on a twist, and the kids were sitting there leaning against a window, and the window just popped out, and the kids went right on out with it and right under the piece of equipment. So the thing is, there's no safe place for children to be ride-alongs in that tractor. Do they use that instructor seat for a youth? Yeah, we know that's going to happen. We know that's realistic, but it's labeled as an instructor seat. So somebody, let's say you're a youth learning how to run the tractor, it's someplace there for that instructor to sit and help you learn how to run the hydraulics and everything that you need to do whatever task you're being assigned.
But that rollover protection's not designed for somebody sitting in that seat.
If there is an instructor seat in there, the rollover protective structure is to protect that seat. Technically that's going to be part of that safety zone. But if you notice, the bigger the tractors, the bigger the framework is on the rollover protective structure. You know, a lot of people just see the nice fancy cab.
Yeah.
Take a look at the size of the steel in those corners. You know, because that's some pretty heavy stuff that's bolted or built right onto the framework of the tractor. So when that rolls over, it's part of the tractor. It's not something that's going to shear a bolt or something like that and break off. And so, again, the bigger the tractor, the bigger the steel and framework is in that. And you'll see some that's not an enclosed cab where you just have the two big posts going up the back and then maybe a sunroof. Kind of a little sunroof or something over the top to keep you in the shade. Yeah. You know, that's still built as a structure that would be the weight to hold that. Yep. Type of thing. So yeah, there's a lot of research that's gone into the ROPS in new equipment, and you're going to see that instructor seat not only in tractors, but you're also going to find those in combines. Yeah. And the structure that forms the cab of a combine is not necessarily as heavy duty as on a tractor, because they actually use part of the combine as the rollover protective structure, like the grain bin. The grain bin usually sticks up higher than the cab. So the cab actually, the grain bin actually serves as part of that rollover structure of a combine. So that's all built into that safety features of it.
So basically what you're saying is, they're going to do it, but just be aware of the risks involved.
That's right. You know, we're not giving them permission to do that. But if it happens, you got to be smart about how to do it safely, you know, because not only is it a danger to that child, it's also a distraction to the driver. and what's going to happen if you get to the end of the field and it's time to turn around right when that child drops their tablet or something on the floor, and they're crawling around on the floor trying to pick up their tablet, and you're trying to turn around and hit the hydraulics, and all of a sudden something goes south,
So what would you say, like, if you were going to pick, like, the biggest offender in, like, farm safety? Like, what would you single out, or maybe what few things would you single out as, like, the biggest safety risk that people are dealing with?
Boy, that's going to depend on what kind of farm or ranch you are. If you're a rancher out there and you've got cattle and horses, that's not the same risk as a grain farmer has. So, if you're a rancher out there, when you're dealing with statistics on injuries and fatalities dealing with ranchers, the number one cause of injury is livestock. And the number
I feel like
one,
to be expected.
Yeah, the number one animal that's involved is the horse.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I wouldn't have seen that coming.
Yeah. So see, the thing is, the horse, for a lot of people, is looked at as a pleasure, a recreation type of animal. Out on a working ranch, that horse is a working animal. Yeah, a tool. Yeah. And so that's going to skew the numbers that direction if you're on a ranch. If you're on a grain farm, then the youth getting involved in equipment and being caught on equipment,
injured on or around it.
Yep, getting caught underneath something rolling over on them, something falling on them. Maybe you took the duals off the tractor and you rolled the duals over and laid them against a building. Well, the kids come out there and go, "Wow, look, I can climb right on top of that." Well, they can climb right on top of it, and if they get that tire over center, that tire's coming down on them. Well, it'll crush them. It'll kill them. They can't lift that tire off of them. It'll just crush them.
I mean, I probably couldn't lift that tire.
No, that is exactly right. So those are the types of things, and where you grew up on a hog farm, you've got other equipment there, the manure spreader. You might have had a manure pit. So now you got to deal with
the big thing was the pit.
Yeah, so now you got to deal with poisonous gases that might be around the pit, might be in the building. Are the exhaust fans and everything working well to keep fresh air in the building? So in those situations, well, now that's your biggest concern is the manure pit, the handling of the manure, and that kind of equipment type of stuff. So
I know I definitely got yelled at a few times because I didn't know where I was, and my dad's first instinct was always the pit.
Head for the pit. Yep.
Make sure he's not there.
Yep.
And then he finds me, and the worry made him probably a little bit more upset than.
Yeah.
But I don't. He obviously wasn't wrong.
Yep, that's exactly right. Because that's a draw. For a little kid, well, I'm going to go throw rocks or I'm going to go throw clods in there if it's liquefied.
I'd like to say I never did that, but I think we've
been there, done that.
We're just going to, I didn't do that, Dad. I swear.
And then there are some pits out there that have a crust on them. Well, kids think they can walk on that crust. It looks like the ground, and they walk on that crust and then will fall through.
That's not where you want to be.
No. So you really can't pick one thing that's really the biggest concern. If there was one thing that we had to pick that's really used in all of those, would be the tractor or the ATV UTVs. Yeah. Those are huge right now, and usually involve, if you're talking about ATVs and UTVs, some of those numbers are kind of ugly right now, but it's not necessarily of any fault of the ATV or UTV. It's usually driver error.
Yeah.
Pushing it to the extreme, doing something with it that it wasn't designed to do, such as high speeds, sharp turns, jumping.
I feel like you're calling me out right now. But, I mean, do you think the numbers are comparable or to when three-wheelers were a thing?
Well, three-wheelers that was a deadly ATV, just the same as the three-wheeler tractors. The three-wheeler tractors, that was a deadly piece of equipment because narrow front end and they didn't have any rollover protective structure. Okay? Now you go into the three-wheeler ATVs, you got the same thing. You got one that rolls very easily and there's nothing there to protect you. So it was probably the most dangerous piece of equipment in the way of the ATV world. So now they got rid of the three-wheeler, and now they got quads. The ATVs now are quads, and then now they've got UTVs that have side-by-side seating in there. So, and the thing is, you still have safety concerns there. Again, kind of brings you back to the power of that ATV. Some of those big ATVs and UTVs now, they've got motors in them that are 1,000 cc's. 1,000 cc's, and the weight on them, I think, runs around 1,500 pounds.
Oh, wow. I didn't know they were that heavy.
Yeah, and you roll one of those over on yourself, you're not going to push it off. It will crush you, where in the older days, those smaller ones.
You can just kick it off.
Yeah, a lot of times you could just put, as long as you weren't hurt so bad that you couldn't do that, but you could literally pick it up or push it off of you and crawl out from under it. You're not going to do that. You're not going to do that with the big ones today. So that's where you're looking at, and that with the ATVs, it's got that long narrow seat. Well, that long narrow seat isn't for 3 to 4 people. That long narrow seat is for one driver to be rider active. Because you should be up and down to the front of that seat, to the back of that seat. If you're going up an incline, you should be scoot clear to the front of that seat. And then if you're going to go down an incline, you should be scooting clear to the back of that seat. And in making left and right turns, you should be shifting your weight left and right, that type of thing. That's why that seat is long and narrow. It is not for 2 or 3 people. It's for one person to be able to ride that ATV safely. And so that way you can shift your weight and move around on there, and that's the way the ATV, or the quad as people call it, that's the way to ride it safely, that type of thing. And then little kids get on there. Well, can little kids start it and drive it? Sure they can. They've made it very simple. All they got to do is turn the key and hit a button. A 3-year-old could get on one of those big ATVs, turn the key and hit the button, off they go. Are their feet on the platform? No, their feet aren't anywhere near that platform. And so can they ride it and drive it? Sure they can, but they can't do it safely. It's just too much hog for
absolutely
for the youth sitting on there. So that's the thing. The thing, again, going back to that earlier question, what do you see is the biggest concern in the quad world? It's putting kids on quads that are way too big for them. They cannot ride it safely. They're big enough to turn the key and hit the go button, but they're not big enough to ride it safely, to be able to shift their weight on the ATV so they could ride it without the fear of rolling it over. And again, if they roll it over on a little kid like that, they're not going to push it off of them.
I mean, I've got a little 250, and my brother's got I think it's a 750 or 1,000.
Yeah.
Mine looks like a toy next to his.
That's right.
I mean, I look ridiculous riding mine because it's small, but size difference, that thing is massive. I can see if you say they're upwards of 1,000, 1,500 pounds.
1,500 pounds, yeah.
I could see that.
And, that's 3/4 of a ton. When people go, well, I could push that off of me. Well, it's 3/4 of a ton. Give that a try.
Yeah, I mean, mine's small enough that, I could lift it in the back of a truck by myself, but his, no. There's no way.
That's one of the activities that we do at a Progressive Agriculture Safety Day with the kids. Because if we were going to do ATV safety, say at your safety day, we would ask you to have one of those big hogs, big old ATVs there, and a youth-sized ATV. The youth size are usually still around 50 to 90 cc's, usually somewhere in that span there. And one of the activities that we do with the kids is get in behind it and
See if
pick
you
that
can pick it
ATV up and see if you can move it over. And with those little 50 cc's, they can get in behind there, they can pick it up, and they can scoot it over. Yeah, you can lift this one. Now try to do it with this big old monster here. They can't even move the shocks. You know,
wow.
When they pick it up, they don't even move the shock absorbers, let alone lift it up.
Yeah.
So that's one of the activities. And then the other activity is pretty common, is we let the kids sit on it. We don't let them ride on an ATV because we don't put children in motion due to a motorized means, but we let them get on that 50 cc. Where are your feet? Oh, their feet are on the platforms. They can reach the handlebars. And it fits very comfortably to them. Now you move them over to this big old 750 or 1000 cc ATV. Now, well, the thing is they got to lean way forward just to get their hands on the handlebars. Well, where are their feet? Well, they're just dangling. They're just dangling out there. They're nowhere near the platforms.
Hopefully not on the exhaust.
Yeah. Or flopping back there by the rear tire, because if the lug of that tire happens to catch their shoe or something like that, it'll pull them right off the ATV and run over them. It'll just pull them right under the tire because the legs are dangling right there by that hind tire.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are all fun activities that the kids can learn at a Progressive Ag Safety Day.
So obviously you're not doing a whole lot this year with the safety days, but this week is Farm Safety Week. So today's Friday that this is coming out.
Okay.
So we're reached the end of Farm Safety Week. Can you tell, I had put on here, what's the why for Farm Safety Week, but I feel like that's kind of self-explanatory, but can you tell me a little bit more about Farm Safety Week?
Yep. There's always a why. There's always a why for farm safety. We could talk about farm safety every week. We do a lot of programs across the North America here with radio stations, televisions, that we're on a regular schedule with them. Some of them weekly, some of them monthly, that we do a safety topic that's pertinent for that time of year. And so there's always the why. Why do we always want to be talking safety? We always have to have safety in the forethought here. But back to Farm Safety Week, it just kind of gives us a week that we can just fill the airwaves with farm safety. And it's going right into harvest, which is one of the busiest times of the year. But statistically, it's also one of the deadliest times of the year. The greatest number of injuries, the greatest number of fatalities. So people are busy. They're running at high speed. They're running at long hours. They're starting early in the morning. They're going late at night. They're working in the dark, those types of things. There are a lot of risks going in this time of year. So Farm Safety Week, with this airing on Friday, the only thing that I could throw out there that they'll still be able to catch is Friday evening, 7 o'clock. We do have a book reading. And so this year, we've done a lot of virtual safety days. We just shut the door on face-to-face safety days, but we've done a lot of virtual safety days. And so we're also having a virtual Farm Safety Week, in which we've got a lot of activities, and we've done evening book readings during the week simply because the kids are at school. And so at 7 o'clock in the evenings of this whole week, we've had a book reading, something of a youth book, takes about 10 minutes. Yeah. And it's via Zoom and or Facebook, I believe. But you could it talks about the book, reads with the kids, tells the story, and then we also have the author and or the person that the story was written about interviewed on cool. this. So it is pretty cool. We've got one called Jacob and the Tractor, in which Jacob, when he was a 10-year-old, was going to be a passenger on a tractor. And as he walked up to the tractor, he thought the tractor driver saw him. And as he was getting up onto the tractor, he dropped his cell phone, bent over to pick up the cell phone, and the tractor kept coming. He thought they were going to stop for him and drove over him. And long story short, he went through years and years of rehab, has recovered, is now married, now has his own child, and is a full-time farmer.
Oh, wow.
And so this is a situation that we have followed through, I'm going to guess probably 15, 20 years now. And they wrote a book called Jacob and the Tractor. So it's also a kid's story on, this could really happen to you. And
so where can they find this link? Like if they
on the Progressive Ag website.
So if they Google like Progressive Ag
progressiveag.org.
Okay.
Yep, progressiveag.org. We got our own website on there. Or they can also give us a call on our toll-free number, which is 888-257-3529, and then we can also send them a link, because there is a link that they got to get registered to get into this book reading, but it's free. It's free. All of our safety days are free, and our virtual safety days. And the thing is, what's really neat now, which COVID has kind of pushed us into, is having the safety days virtual. So now a lot of these demonstrations that we've been talking, like the ATV, well, we really can't do it hands-on now because we're not in a face-to-face safety day. But we now have demonstrated all of those.
But you can do it online.
And we have videotaped it, and now we've got it in the can.
Well,
so now we can take it right into the kids' classrooms, or to a 4-H meeting, or to an FFA meeting.
I actually just had a guy from the 4-H in here a couple weeks ago, and we talked about innovation because of all that. Like, he's in the same boat where 4-H has basically taken a crash course on online learning, virtual learning.
That's right.
And they're in the same boat, and they're
And see, we're providing that training to Extension. We're providing that for them. So if the 4-H leader doesn't have the technology or ability or the props to be able to do that demonstration, they can just communicate with us and get the link, and they can have a different topic program every one of their 4-H meetings. And a lot of the FFA advisors are doing that. A lot of the FFA advisors and the FFA kids are now doing these programs in the elementary. So, now they're taking these videos and going into the elementary classroom
and
presenting that to the kids, where, some schools don't allow visitors into the school, but they allow the students to come visit
and do things
with the kids. So that's one positive thing that's happened to the Progressive Ag Foundation, is we have now done a 180, and now we not only have all of this curriculum and activities for face-to-face, hopefully we'll get back to face-to-face, but if not, we still have all of this resources and videos and activities that the FFA kids, 4-Hers, or just elementary school teachers can bring it right into their classroom. So,
well, and I'm looking at this map. I think we'll have to get in touch, because we do. Like I said, there's a thing in Centennial. Like, we go to different safety things and kind of talk about PTOs, and reaction time is something that we cover a lot.
Yep.
Because the kids think, I can move my hand fast away. It's like, no, you can't. No, you can't.
You're not fast enough.
You're not faster than that.
No
shaft.
one is fast enough. That's right.
And we actually have a little button that the kid, I think it's a beep.
Yep.
And you tell the kid, all right, you need to hit the button.
As soon as you hear the beep.
Yep. And then you can say, all right, you reacted this fast, but so this shaft spun, 67 times or something like that.
16 times per second.
And it's definitely a lot quicker than they think.
Yep.
So I think we should work together a little more when you can get back out.
Yeah, without a doubt, because the thing is, that's what Progressive Ag Safety Days are all about. And the thing is, our applications are still open for 2021. If they're wanting to host a Progressive Ag Safety Day in their community in 2021, our application window is still open. So, and like I said, I think we accept something like 500 applications a year.
Oh,
wow. So yes, get in there. Our deadline is usually July 15th for the following year. So July 15th has passed, but I just talked to our CEO earlier in the week, and he said that they're leaving the window open, especially during Farm Safety Week here, because we got a lot of media going out. And so if there's a community that's wanting to do a Progressive Ag Safety Day in 2021, and right now we don't know if it's going to be a face-to-face safety day or if it'll be a virtual type of safety day, but that's what we'll prepare for, you know, either or.
Either way.
Yeah, either way, you're going to be able to take some information into your community. Get an application filled out, because they got to fill out an application to go through the training, because you got to be trained on where am I going to find these links, where am I going to find the material. We also provide T-shirts for all of the kids at a Progressive Ag Safety Day. You're sitting there looking at the annual report, and if you look at the pictures, all the kids have look-alike T-shirts. We provide T-shirts for all of the volunteers that help at the safety day. We provide all of the liability insurance for the event. And then we also usually provide a take-home bag, so the kids can have all kinds of safety information, brochures, coloring books, pencils, whatever you want to gather in your community, and goes home with every one of the kids. In fact, a lot of information that goes in that bag are for mom and dad.
Yeah.
There's a lot of information in there that mom and dad need to be looking at. So that's kind of the neat thing about a Progressive Ag Safety Day. And all they got to do is go to our website, which is Progressive Ag, so progressiveag.org. And there's a button right on the front says apply today or something like that.
Couldn't be easier.
And it's a very simple application. Very simple. So, yeah.
Is there any cost involved to that, or?
There is a $75 buy-in into the program.
Okay.
But that's your only expense. All the training this year is going to be virtual, so you don't even have to travel to a training location. It's all you can do it right there at home or on your work computer, whatever. You know, some people do this as part of their job. You know, if you were doing this to do a safety day as part of your job as an employee of Farmers Co-op, a lot of times you can do your training right there in your office. Part of it is train on your own. There's kind of a little activity book that kind of goes through the nuts and bolts, and you train at your own speed. Maybe you only got 15 minutes a day to work on this, and then shut it down, and I'm going to come back tomorrow and work for 15 minutes on it, type of thing. And then there's a 2-hour block, which is a live webinar in which you're on with about 20 other coordinators. Yeah. And they could be brand new coordinator just like yourself, or they could be somebody that's been with us 20 or 25 years. But then that's where we talk about all of the brand new resources, is that 2-hour live webinar. The other one, which is we call the Safety Day Builder, really explains the nuts and bolts to all the new coordinators coming in, which the experienced people have already been doing for 20 or 25 years. So they don't need to see all the nuts and bolts every year. They do it every year. And because on the website, every coordinator has their own home page on our website.
Well, that's cool.
So, and all of that is at no cost to your community. You have the $75 buy-in to the program, and then you may end up getting hundreds of T-shirts, take-home bags, the liability insurance, and none of that is a cost to your community. All that is free.
Just pay $75 and you're done.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, I appreciate you coming in. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Well, one, I would like to thank Farmers Co-op, because this is how we get the safety word out to rural America, is through our ag businesses, and as far as we're a charitable nonprofit foundation. The only way we can support all of these programs and all of these kids, because we reach about 100 to 110,000 kids every summer at about 400 safety days. The only way we do that is through a lot of our ag businesses.
Getting the word out.
Yep, and Farmers Co-op helps us out. We appreciate you inviting us in.
Well, absolutely.
And if we want to do this more often, we're game to do this, because this is how we get the word out there. And if there are communities that want to bring a safety day to their community, gosh, give us a jingle. That $75 buy-in is the only expense they have into the program. The website, the hands-on activity, all of the activities and curriculum
is included with that.
All that is brought right to your community.
Well, we definitely appreciate you coming in. Like safety is a big thing for Farmers Co-op, whether it be for our employees, for customers,
families. Your employees' families are huge.
It's a big focus of ours, and it's only we're ramping up the focus on that, and so we appreciate it. You will probably be hearing from us more.
That would be great. We would love to participate. And again, we appreciate all the help that Farmers Co-op give, not only to us, the foundation, but to all of those 60, 70 some communities that you guys call a family.
Oh yeah.
You've got a buy-in, with all of those families. So appreciate that.
Yep. And everybody that's tuned in, I'd like to thank you for listening. Remember, we release new episodes every 2 weeks on Fridays. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. You can check us out at myfarmerscoop.com. New episodes are down there below. And the URL for Bernard and the Progressive Ag Foundation is progressiveag.org. And we'll try and put that link in the description. And as always, keep growing.